For those of you who are listening to the live broadcast and are interested in hearing about Lifest and trying it out for your own sake, it's up here in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, right where the EAA is. And I know tonight my daughters and I are going to be going to the Newsboys. We were there last year, and it was just incredible. If you're looking for something awesome to do that's family conducive, that really is finding a way to have fun with your teens and your young people, Lifest is a great event, something like this. Now, there's thousands and thousands and thousands of people that come to Lifest every year. And Bob Lenz started this. It's really evangelizing through music, and there's so many different kinds of groups that are playing. Tonight we're going to see Newsboys, and I remember last year when we were here, the band, one of the members of the band, he actually straps himself into this drum set, and he gets lifted above the audience, and he tilts to the side, and while he's spinning, he's playing this magnificent drum solo. Really cool. All the while there's beach balls being bounced back and forth. Good fun for everyone to come and check out if you've got a young person. Like I said, there's camping right on site, so it's a lot of fun, and I'm just so glad to be down here. But because of that, I had to find a place to broadcast to everyone who tunes in to Embracing Your Greatness. So I'm here at the Starbucks, who has free Wi-Fi, so that when I'm done here, I can go back over to where my girls are and enjoy the Lifest opportunities. Thank you again for choosing to tune in today with Embracing Your Greatness. As you know, this show is about reestablishing the dignity of the human person. And I also look at the Holy Father's intentions for every month to discern what the programming is going to be for the show. So this month, being July, is that Christians may contribute to alleviating the material and spiritual suffering of AIDS patients, especially in the poorest countries. So as I told you last month, this whole month, we are going to be talking about the woundedness of really the spiritual leprosy, or the difficulties of woundedness, of the very meaning of what it means to be made male and female in our country. For those of you that have been paying attention to the Casey Anthony trial, there was a verdict that came in yesterday of her being not guilty. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with the Casey Anthony trial, that is a young woman who was accused of killing her young 2-year-old daughter. They found Casey Anthony's daughter, Kaylee, dead in the woods. And, you know, I just wrote an article about this. It's on Catholic Lane. I think Catholic Exchange is also carrying that article. But it's on my blog for those of you who are interested in reading. It's embracingyourgreatness.blogspot.com. And, you know, whenever there's a story involving a woman who has killed her child, you know, I do everything that I can not to listen or to try to change the channel. If I do get some of the details, which seems to happen inevitably, you know, because our news media is so, they sensationalize these stories. They tend to give us every shocking detail over and over and over. I believe this case in particular, you could actually watch it live. There was a station dedicated to being in the courtroom 24/7 while this trial was going on, so that you can watch every certain gesture she made, every conversation that's going on, every piece of evidence that was submitted. But, you know, if you might remember, a few years ago, there was the story of the mother who had actually chased down her children and drowned them, each one at a time, in her bathtub. Recently, there was a story about a woman who strapped her kids in her van and actually drove off a bridge. So one of the things that's predominant, it seems, in our culture is there's something really amiss. There's something really wrong with our culture in terms of understanding what it means to be made male and female. Last month, there's actually a story about, in New York City, there was a baby, a brand new baby, that was put down one of the garbage chutes. One of the garbage chutes, but to be into the incinerator. But because there was some garbage pizza boxes or something blocking the gate that opened it to the incinerator, a janitor discovered this baby before before it perished. Thank God. So we have lots of these things kind of going on in our culture that makes us say, what is happening? What is wrong with our culture, that every day we can turn on the news and we hear about this horrible atrocity of mothers killing their babies? I mean, there's a lot of atrocities going on in the world. So, you know, when I heard this, I have to tell you that the article that I wrote has none of the particulars of this case, okay? Because if you're like me, some of you might not be, some of you might be very interested in the particulars, and, you know, I have no judgment against that, but some of you, you know, it's just so hard to hear all the gory details of these kinds of cases. So my article isn't about the gory details, but rather it's about what it was like for me to actually, the pictures of seeing Kaylee were not disturbing. disturbing to me. What really disturbed me the most is seeing mother and child together. These images of the two of them hugging, kissing, and loving one another, it just created this deep and profound ache within my very being. And it's really because unfortunately we've really lost a sense of what it means to be made male and female. Because of course that means that motherhood and fatherhood is what we are called to. We're called to either spiritual motherhood or physical motherhood, or both. But we are all, as women, called to motherhood, and men are called to fatherhood. So when there's a breakdown in the understanding of what it means to be made male and female, there are going to be some deep and disturbing symptoms that manifest themselves. And that's what I see in this case. Although this case is troubling, we've got definitely an issue with moral relativism, where, and I have to say, when you live in a country where it is legal to have an abortion up until the day you deliver your child in certain states, is it no wonder there's a confusion on the parts of mothers as to what a child is, what her call to motherhood is, and whether or not that child is a person or not. I believe Planned Parenthood versus Casey in 1962 gave the definition that at the heart of liberty is the right to define one's own concept of existence, of meaning, of the universe, and of the mystery of human life. When we live in a country where we can discern and decide for ourselves what is right and wrong and what the mystery of human life is, then we certainly have lost the dignity of the human person. So of course that's going on in a society also that just does it, pleasure-seeking. Was that something that was going on with the Casey Anthony trial? Was she actually looking into ways in which to intoxicate her child, drug her child, so that she could go out and party with her friends, having her daughter not wake up? And was this some accidental kind of overdose that took place and then she tried to hide the body? I don't know. And to me, that is less important for me to understand than it is for me to see what was going on in this family. That when Casey was being raised by this mother and father, she somehow was not taught, she somehow did not learn, she somehow did not become inspired, and she missed the invitation of what family life is. There's a deep hunger and ache in our country to understand what it means to be a family, what it means to be a man, what it means to be a woman, and what it means to be a mother, what it means to be a father. This all speaks to the dignity of the human person, and certainly in this scenario, there are tragic consequences. And unfortunately, we're going to continue seeing these consequences if we don't look to a remedy. Of course, the remedy is that we have to rediscover our value, our great goodness, our dignity, which comes from being made in the image and likeness of God. And until we address that real issue, which is the loss of dignity for the person, we will continue treating the symptoms of this disease rather than healing it. My guest today, later after we come back from the break in just a bit, we got a few more moments, is going to be someone that I met at the Theology of the Body Institute in Pennsylvania. It was a course called Sexual Healing and Redemption. And I have to say, it transformed so much of my understanding about the way and nature of how we become wounded. And again, this all correlates to the Casey Anthony trial, because clearly this young woman had some deep wounds that took place and transpired, and really corrupted her decision-making abilities, and at minimum, at calling authorities and saying something's wrong with my child or my child's missing, to go 30 days without reporting her child. Clearly there was some kind of neglect or negligence going on in her lackadaisical embracing, non-embracing, I guess, of what it means to be a mother. So when we have a culture that's deeply, deeply wounded, we need to understand what a wound is. How are the choices we make and the things that go on around us wounding us? Because this show is dedicated to the Holy Father's intentions for every month, although I chose woundedness as a topic for this month, I particularly wanted to focus on AIDS and as well as healing, because it's important that we understand that healing is available to us. We don't want to just focus on that alone. So in the second part of this this show, we're going to have Dr. Bob Schutz. So if you're watching this on YouTube later as an archive, make sure that you look at the other parts of the show that are for July 6th, 2011. Dr. Bob Schutz started this institute. It's based out of Florida, And I actually ended up going down to Florida to another retreat of healing the whole person. If you go to onlypeople.net, there are some beautiful archived MP3s that you can download or listen to. One is called Anatomy of a Wound. And like I said, it's just fabulous to see the way that they have discerned it. Some people call it theophostic healing, and we're going to talk to Dr. Bob about that. But it's really Christ-centered, praying through, allowing the Holy Spirit to kind of guide you and bring you to those places where you're broken, where you're wounded, and showing you where you may have come in agreement with the enemy, where you have agreed, I won't trust anybody, and you said, yes, I won't trust anybody because I will just get hurt again. That is giving a stronghold to the enemy, and when that happens, the enemy is able to, of your own free will, lock Christ out of that place in your heart and in your cognizant way of discernment, and it will manifest symptoms, create and wreak havoc in your life. If you've got distress symptoms, if you find yourself overreacting to a certain scenario, maybe you need to be thinking about anatomy of a wound, because some of those distress symptoms, those aren't the reality of the difficulty. They're actually pointing you like a neon sign to the very place you need healing, the root of the wound. So if you're an angry person and you think you have a lot of issues with anger, guess what? Anger really isn't your issue. Abandonment is your issue. That is the root. So Dr. Bob has come up with ways in which we can allow the Holy Spirit to guide us to those places, invite Christ in to heal those, and with magnificent results, I have to say, magnificent results. And so I had to have him on the show. We're going to have Dr. Bob back on after the break. Please stay tuned. He's going to share with us his family experience of his own brother, who actually suffered from the AIDS virus, how the wounds of his brother, the wounds of his family life manifested the distress symptoms, how they identified it, the healing that came through Jesus Christ, and how he then started the Theology of the Body Healing Center. Join me after the break.